What is up? Welcome to the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, our first live show. I know it's Monday, so some people have lives outside of college basketball, unlike me. We are here. We are going to answer all your questions about the seeding. We have our bracketology. We're going to pull it up on the screen here. For anyone in the chat who has questions and wants to ask about it, I'm going to get to those. Got about 30 questions we got from our Instagram, so appreciate everyone who commented some of those questions on there. We're going to go over all of them. Some of them similar, a lot of people wondering about Wisconsin. Love to see the Wisconsin love. We got Cully in the chat, of course, asking about North Dakota State. I did my research. We're going to talk about North Dakota State, I promise here. But we're going to dive right into it. I'm going to pull up the official seed list right here. Most of the questions I got from this initial seed list did have to do with the Alabama and Tennessee resumes. So let's talk about those real quick. Just going through this, I still have Alabama as your fourth number one seed ahead of Tennessee. Florida also in the conversation, but when you go through their blind resume, to me, it's kind of obvious that it's Alabama with every better resume metric, not predictive metric, because Tennessee does have the advantage in that, and KenPom at net. Torvik leans Alabama, but strength of record, wins against bubble, KPI, quad 1A, quad 2, it all leans Alabama, which is why I lean that. Head-to-head does not matter unless it is identical. This is your team sheet metric. I still lean Alabama. I see the argument for Tennessee, but still going to lean Alabama on that. All right, let's dive right into the question. So our first question does have to do with Alabama. It is from Caleb Merenstein. Of course, I'm going to apologize already for mispronouncing some of these names. But so Caleb Merenstein, can Alabama still get to a number one seed? 100%. Alabama can definitely end up being a number one seed. They got Florida later this week. I think if they beat Florida, there's really not even a question that Alabama should be ahead of Tennessee. Do see a little bit of the argument, but it's Alabama in my book. Next question is from Wellstone Jones 1138. Is Wisconsin a lock for a 2 seed if they beat Michigan State? Now, of course, we do know that they did not beat Michigan State. Had they beat Michigan State, they probably would have been solidified as that 2 seed for now. The last 2 seed is really up for grabs, as you can see on the list here. I do have St. John's, the projected winner of the Big East. Iowa State and Texas Tech are kind of in that conversation right now with a little gap. Kentucky is that final 3 seed. I think they're the one team who can't really get to a 2 seed. I still think Wisconsin, with a deep run, and maybe if they win the Big Ten conference tournament, could get up to a 2 seed. Texas Tech and Iowa State are definitely in the conversation, but I do think it might be St. John's right now, just with their strength of record metric is fantastic. I do have the team sheet pulled up here on my side screen. They're 8th in strength of record, 8th in wins against bubble, which, correlates with that. Their KPI isn't as good, but there's just no real obvious choice for that last 2 seed right now. And of course, for that last 3 seed, I got a ton of questions on Kentucky. You can't put Purdue as a 3 seed. You can't put A&M, Arizona, or Michigan right now as a 3 seed. Kentucky is, I believe, tied for 2nd in the country. Let me double check that in quad 1A wins. Yeah, they are tied for 2nd in the country in quad 1A wins with 6 of them. They're tied for 5th in the country, with quad 1 wins with 9 of them. So I lean them as the final 3 seed. But all right, let's keep going through these questions. Moving down, this one is from Michael Kane 9. How far out is Villanova? All right, let me pull up my the Bubble Watch graphic. I have them as the 7th team out right now. I think it's fairly obvious that Villanova can beat just about anyone in the country. They can also probably lose to anyone in the country. Right now, their metrics are not good. They're 61st in strength of record, 65th in wins against bubble. In these categories, you want to be, at probably worst in the mid 40s. They're 61st in strength of record, 65th in wins against bubble. They do have better predictive metrics, 54th at KenPom, 51st in the net, and 41st at BPI and 48th at Torvik. So pretty good averages there. They don't have a quad 1A win, though, and they're only 2-6 in quad 1, 4-3 in quad 2. There's a potential path if they make the Big East championship and, say, lose to a St. John's. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough to get in. Got a question in the chat. Where'd you get these questions? These questions were, we post them on our Instagram. We didn't end up posting it on Twitter and TikTok because we ended up just getting so many. Just post them on our Instagram for people to comment their questions on bracketology. The next one is from Bryson Griffith. How cooked is Arkansas? They're not all the way cooked, but they're a little bit cooked. I did get a lot of questions in the comment when I posted the seed list yesterday about Arkansas as well. So did quite a bit of research on them. So let's pull up their team sheet. Arkansas. So their predictive or their resume averages are 48.7. As mentioned, you kind of want to be in the mid 40s, 49th in strength of record, 44th in wins against bubble. Predictives right about the same, about 45th. The reason I ended up leaving them off, they're 4-9 in quad 1, 2-3 in quad 2. That's 6-12 inside the first two quadrants. That's not great. That's they have 3 quad 1A wins, which is kind of what could carry them into the tournament. I think they're on the outside looking in right now. The resume averages are worse than Xavier and North Carolina. And the reason I do have Nebraska as that last team over Arkansas is because, as mentioned, Arkansas 6-12 in the first two quadrants. Nebraska is 9-10. That is a significant difference. I know the predictive averages aren't as good for Nebraska, but that is a significant difference to end up putting Nebraska in that final spot. All right, let's move on to the next question. This one is courtesy Daniel Lindsay 22 asks, what happens to Arkansas now? Just kind of went over that, kind of flows in the same one. So let's move on to the next one. Tyler Soraka, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Tyler Soraka 9. How many SEC teams do you think get in? Will they break the record? So the record is 11 set by the Big East. I'm fairly confident that the SEC is going to break the record. I think 12 is going to be the number if I had to predict. I mean, you just see on this bubble sheet, there are a million teams in the SEC just kind of fighting for those last couple spots. Georgia, I think, is going to get in. Oklahoma's like about as close to 50-50 as it gets. Arkansas, I'd probably give them about a 40% chance. Texas dug them a hole, but with Vanderbilt getting in and probably Georgia going to get in, I think they're going to break the record and get to 12. This one is courtesy of Julian Bunka. Do you think Michigan State could make a Final Four run this year? Absolutely. Michigan State has been one of they got maybe the deepest team in the country, got one of the best coaches in the country. There is a path for Michigan State to end up being a 1 seed, even as a 2 seed with the right. I will say, I think they're a little bit matchup dependent because they're very well coached, but they're not the most talented team in the country. So I do still believe that Michigan State could definitely make a Final Four run. I think they got one of the highest floors in the entire country. How bad does the Arkansas loss hurt them? This one's courtesy of AJ826. How bad does the Arkansas loss hurt them? Does going 1-1 the rest of the way keep them in? Let me take a look at their remaining schedule here. So as mentioned, I'd say it's about a 40% chance that they get in. So they go to Vanderbilt. This would be a quad 1 win. And then they are at home against Mississippi State, which would be a quad 1 win. At the moment, they're Mississippi State's 30th in the net. So if Arkansas beats them, that might drop them out of the quad 1. But at worst, a quad 2 win. If they go 1-1 in these games, I think they'd be in about the same position as they're in right now. Maybe a little better depending on what North Carolina and Xavier do. If they go 1-1, I'd say it's still about a 45. I'd give them slightly worse chances of getting in than not getting in. But they're a team to look out for with that interesting resume. A lot of quad 1A wins, but I don't know if 1-1 would do it. If they go 1-1, you got to win a game. You got to win your first game in the SEC tournament. In my opinion, 1-1 would put them at 7-11. I thought that would be good enough to get them in, but losing that first game in the SEC tournament, I would not recommend. All right, a question in the chat. I feel like Ohio State needs to win out the regular season to get in, from Raymond Burrows. I know they played Nebraska and Indiana, correct? Let me pull up their Nebraska. So they're at home against Nebraska. Pretty much a must-win situation there. You have to win that game, in my opinion, if you're Ohio State. If they were to lose that game, Ohio State would drop to sub 500 in quad 2. I know quad 2 isn't the most important thing in the world, but sub 500 doesn't look good to the committee. I do think they need to beat Nebraska. If they lose to Indiana and go 1-1, if they lose at Indiana, I firmly believe if Ohio State wins 2 more games, so going 2-0 or go 1-1 and then win a game in the Big Ten tournament. I think that they will get in. Wouldn't be completely confident in it because of the bid stealer situation, some potential bid stealers. But I think if they win 2 games, 18 and that would put them at 18-14. I think that gets them in just because, I mean, they're pretty good in quad one and they've proven, I mean, they got 3 quad 1A wins, which is pretty good for a bubble team, 5-9 in quad one, 9-13 in the first 2 quadrants. If you get to 10, that's pretty good. So from Cully 24, my favorite North Dakota State fan, what is your favorite team? I try and stay as unbiased as possible. I live in Ohio, so I'm kind of grown up on Ohio State. So kind of leading into Raymond's question, kind of always lean towards Ohio State, but you know, I should hate Michigan, I guess, in that fact, but I kind of really love Dusty May and the squad that they've put together there. So I guess you can say I might be a fake Ohio State fan, but I would lean Ohio State in that situation. All right, moving down in the question list, do you think Michigan has a real chance to make at least the Sweet 16? So talking about Michigan, I think Michigan's pretty fraudulent. I bet them to win the Big Ten earlier this year because I really thought that they had something with Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf, and it kind of proved true, but they've really kind of started to fall off as of late. I trust Dusty May with my life. This is a team that I could see, you know, kind of being like how Clemson was last year as that 6th seed, where they kind of really fell off late in the year and then just they had the talent. They had the guys to make a deep run and make it to the Elite 8. I think Michigan could be in that boat. I could also see Michigan ending up as like the 5 seed and, you know, getting beat by the High Points, by the UC Irvines of the world in that opening round. So do I think they have a real chance? Yes, I would say that I do think they have a chance, but not real confident in it. Next up, let's talk about that question was courtesy of the Human Being, by the way. Sorry, should have gave you credit there. This one is courtesy of Wordum Man. Is Florida legit? Yes, I do think Florida is definitely legit. Florida's not as good as you would think in quad one. They're 6-4 in quad one, 3-4 in quad 1A, which isn't as for those who don't know, quad 1A is basically just the top half of quad 1. So your better quad 1 games. Not all quad 1 games are created equal. Quad 1A is the top half. So not as fantastic as you would expect for an elite team. I still do think they're elite with their size and their guard play. They're top 7 in offense and defense in the country at KenPom. Resume averages of 5, 5th in wins against bubble, 6th in strength of record. Their predictive averages at 4.3, 5th in BPI, 4th in KenPom, 4th at Torvik. This team's really good. They can beat anyone in the country. I think they're going to end up as a 2 seed. And I think if you're in Florida's case, you're kind of rooting obviously to not be, I mean, they did beat Auburn, but you're rooting to not be in Auburn or Duke's bracket. If they're in Houston or Tennessee or Alabama, I think they'll probably be the favorite to come out of that and make the Final Four. But obviously that's a pretty tough ask for any team. This one is courtesy of N. Perez 1122. What does Tennessee need to do in order to make the Final Four? This is going to be the simplest answer I've ever given. They need to make shots. Chaz Lanier needs to make shots. This team is heavily reliant on Chaz Lanier, and he's been awesome, but he is a little bit streaky at sometimes. If someone can shut him down, I kind of mentioned that in a podcast a couple shows ago that Tennessee is so incredibly similar to Houston, both incredible on defense. If Houston is going and LJ Cryer isn't making shots, they can be beat. Same goes for Tennessee with Chaz Lanier. I'm a little worried about Tennessee not being on their home court on a neutral site. I mean, they won what preseason tournament did they win? The Baja Mar, where they beat Baylor and St. John's. I think they're really good. I just think that, it's going to be heavily reliant on Chaz Lanier. I don't think I will have Tennessee in my Final Four, quite frankly, but I see a path. It's all matchup dependent. Things change like crazy. All right, from the chat, Kelly24, do you have any first-round upset picks? So a couple mid-majors I could see really making some noise. I mean, obviously VCU, UC San Diego, and Drake have been the darlings. I really like High Point. I think if High Point ends up getting the automatic bid, I think that if they're a 12 seed, I think I will take them. They've been averaging like 90 points a game over the last 5 or 6 games. They were hurt to start the season. As of late, they've been playing much better basketball. Obviously, they're dominating the big, I think they're in the Big South, whatever conference they're in. But they got some firepower. I think if they were to match up with like a Michigan, as we just kind of mentioned, I would probably take High Point in that one. Nicholas Perez says Jemai Mashak. Yes, Jemai Mashak can knock down shots. He is an elite defender. I love Jemai Mashak. He is just one of those glue guys. Their defense keeps Tennessee's floor so high. Ceiling, we'll see about how good the scoring can be. Jemai Mashak, if he's making shots, Chaz Lanier, I'm a little worried about how lenient they are on Chaz Lanier. Great team. I still think they're going to make, I think they're not upset prone. I think they're definitely at worst a second weekend team. All right, so this one is courtesy by Body by Cranberry Ginger Ale. He's a big Wisconsin fan on our Instagram. He good guy. I know a lot of people have my Badgers as a 2 seed, but is a championship a possibility? Championship is tough. Final Four, I think I could see them getting there. This team's got a prolific offense. John Tanji's been awesome. A championship is tough, especially with how good Auburn and Duke and Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Houston have all been. It's going to be tough. I do see a path as getting to the Final Four, especially if they're in a good region where a 1 seed gets beat. I don't think so about a championship, though, quite frankly. This one's courtesy of Grant Reeder. If Michigan State wins out plus the conference tournament, do they have a potential for a 1 seed? 100%. I think if Michigan State were to win out, let me pull up the rest of their schedule real quick. So they go to Iowa, and then they are at home against Michigan. I honestly expect them to win both of these games. If they win the conference championship, it's really hard to say because it really does just depend on. Let me pull up the seed list here. So you're talking about jumping Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, all SEC teams. If one of these teams win the SEC instead of Auburn, I think they're pretty much a lock as a 1 seed. If not, if these teams are to lose, I think Michigan State could definitely jump them. But so if you're a Michigan State fan, you're rooting for Auburn to win the SEC. Or Michigan State could even jump Houston if Houston were to have an early round exit in the Big 12 tournament. But I don't know if I really see that happen. There is a path, but I'd say it's more unlikely than not. I do think Michigan State's the best team in the Big Ten, but kind of a tough path. Alrighty. Do you think Gonzaga and Caliph Battle can make a run? From Nolan Moaber? I'm sorry, I'm horrible at names. From Nolan. Do you think Gonzaga and Caliph Battle can make a run? I do. This team is too good to be performing the way they've been performing. I know they just picked up a huge win at San Francisco. Caliph Battle and Ryan Nembhard are like 2 of the best guards in the country. I still can't really figure out why this team has kind of really underperformed. They are still they're highly ranked by every single predictive. And if the predictives are fairly accurate, they're 8th at KenPom right now. Caliph Battle is one of the best scorers I thought out of the portal. He's only averaging 12 or 13 a game. He really needs to step it up, but he's one of those guys who can really make a name for himself in March Madness. I think if Gonzaga is a 7 or 8 seed, if they, they play a 1 seed that's like Alabama, I think they have a good chance of beating them because both teams can just really score the ball. And it's just basically who can outscore who. I'm not much of a fan of Gonzaga's big men, I will say. Braden Huff, even I know Graham Ike is really efficient in terms of what the computers say. I'm not really all the way there on him and Ben Gregg, Braden Huff, Graham Ike. I'm a little worried about their big men, but if their guards are making shots, yeah, this team can beat anyone. Quite frankly, I think this will probably be an upset that I end up picking if they're in the right category. If they're a 7 seed and they play a 2 seed, that's seems fairly beatable. It's definitely a possibility. I could see Gonzaga making a run. All right, from Raymond Burrows, I'm curious to get your thoughts on Boise State. They have a quad 3 loss to BC. BC sits at 199. If they drop 2 spots, it's quad 4. Yes, that is a good point. I did not know that. Would that change anything for Boise? Boise State has one of the most interesting resumes in the country because they did not have a good non-conference, and their resume averages are, just okay. They're 52nd resume average, 54th in strength of record, 53rd in wins against bubble. Their predictives have them at 43rd in the net, 48th in BPI, 49th at KenPom, and 43rd at Torvik for an average of 46.7. The reason I have Boise State in the tournament right now is because they're 3-5 in quad one and 4-1 in quad two. That's 7-6 inside the first two quadrants. Remember, we talked about Arkansas being 6-12 in the first two quadrants. That's the only reason I would have Boise State ahead of them. But the thing that we did learn is that the committee last year, remember, everyone had the Mountain West teams ranked higher than the committee had them. So I'm curious to see, because Boise State has really kind of built their resume in the Mountain West this year without the non-conference. I'm curious if they would kind of take it out on them for, I mean, they still label it as a mid-major league, even though it's like just about as good as the ACC is. But another example, North Carolina, who I have as the first team out, is 6-10 in the first two quadrants. Boise State has 2 more quad one wins than them in 3 less opportunities. So that's why I lean Boise State. I am curious to see what the committee does with them. If that drops to a quad 4 loss, it will make it a little bit more interesting. But I think I would still have them in, because that would put them at 4-1 in quad 3 and then 9-1 in quad 4, compared to like North Carolina, who's the first team out, 7-1 in quad 3, but with just much better numbers for that. You know, those last couple spots in, I want to see resume-based metrics. You know, who have you beaten? Can you proven that you can actually beat the teams that that deserve it? Like North Carolina's 0-8 in quad 1A, 1-10 in quad 1. Boise State's 1-1 in quad 1A, 3-5 in quad 1. I think you have to lean Boise State, even with that becoming a quad 4 loss. All right, let's move on to the next question. This one's from Braxport 1108. Based on Arkansas losing by 20 to South Carolina, are their odds still well to make it to March? Kind of went over this a little bit earlier, so if you're tuning in a little bit late, go back and listen to that. I would say it's about 40-45% chance that that Arkansas gets in right now. They still, like, it's in their own hands. If they go out and win games, they can do it, but we'll see. From Swishna327, and actually, yeah, this is Sam Wishna. What a weird coincidence. I'm actually on your question right now. What teams that will be seeded 12 through 16 have a chance of making a run? And he just asked in the chat, aside from High Point, which 12 through 16 seed, can you see making a deep run? Making a deep run is hard. 12 through 16, I will say, I think this is going to be as chalky as a first round as we've seen in a while. The mid-majors just don't really do it for me this year, that are like the higher seeded mid-majors. Like, obviously Drake, VCU, and UC San Diego can win a game, but I'm going to the 12 through 16 seeds. Yale, I don't think is as good as they were last year. Same goes for McNeese. I love High Point. Akron could win a game, but Akron's been really starting to fade as of late. A team to watch out for, South Alabama. South Alabama's got a little something about them. And if it's not South Alabama out of the Sun Belt, it could be Arkansas State. Arkansas State won at Memphis earlier this year. Arkansas State can make some noise, so I know they're not in the bracketology. If I had to pick a team, I think I would go with Arkansas State. This team's really good. They had a 4-way tie in the Sun Belt for first. The 1 seed is South Alabama. Arkansas State's like the 4 seed, so they will match up at some point in the semifinals, most likely. I think the winner of that game has a decent shot of potentially, you know, being that surprising team. From Joshua Gordon, how far is Missouri going to go? Missouri's really good. Missouri is like one of those teams where if I saw them in the Final Four, I would not be shocked whatsoever. This team's got talent all across the board. They got great guards. Caleb Grill has come on. It's just a terrific basketball player. Mark Mitchell's been so much better than I expected, and obviously Tamar Bates is really good. I think Missouri's going to win 2 games. I think they're a second weekend team. I'm curious, like, in terms of, you know, the preseason bias that leads into some of these computer metrics, what they would be if they didn't go 0-18. I feel like they might be a 4 seed, but we do know that preseason, you know, bias is a little bit there going into these predictive metrics. But Missouri, really good team. I expect them to see as a 4 or a 5 seed. I think they can make a good run here. Cully 24, are you excluding North Dakota State from this conversation? I get it. They're obviously going to make a run. All right, let's talk about North Dakota State real quick, because I did just learn today, and I did not even remember it. They did win at Butler earlier this year. I thought they were the team that played Alabama. No, that was North Dakota. Cully called me out on it. But North Dakota State, they'll probably end up a 14 or 15 seed. Hey, maybe you match up with Kentucky. Kentucky lost to a 14 seed last year. Maybe you can do it again. North Dakota State. All right, from Kalen, aren't usually there 2 11 seeds as the playing games? Can you explain it being the 12 seeds from here. Might be a dumb question. Not a dumb question at all. I know it is usually the 11 seeds, but in this scenario, the bubble's so weak. And in this scenario, Drake, VCU, and UC San Diego have better resumes, in my opinion, than Ohio State, Oklahoma, Boise State, and Nebraska. I know that says Xavier. It's supposed to say Nebraska. I'm sorry. So, if, say, Bradley wins the Missouri Valley instead of Drake, I still do think Drake would be an at-large team, and I think that they would have the advantage over Ohio State. And same goes for VCU and UC San Diego. So they have a better resume. You can do a play-in. Last year, the play-in games, I know at least one was a 10 seed, that Colorado State Virginia game. I can't remember. I think they were both 10 seeds with Boise State as well. So it can go from anywhere to 10 to a 12 seed. In this scenario, I have them 12 seeds because Drake, VCU, UC San Diego, all with better resumes than these teams. So some real potential bid stealers if UC Irvine wins the Big West, if Dayton wins the A10, or Belmont or Bradley wins the Missouri Valley. These teams, I do believe, would be definitely above, in my opinion, Oklahoma, Boise State, and Nebraska. I think Ohio State's a little bit ahead of those teams, but even Ohio State in this scenario, I would have these three ahead of them. All right, let's go back to the other questions. Thoughts on Ohio State? This one's from Nick Melcher, 35. I did kind of talk about Ohio State a little bit earlier. I think they need to win 2 more games, and I think that they will be in. They've got some serious upside. Still, the Michie Johnson thing. I wonder if he'll be back. I actually really don't know. They can really score the ball. We saw them dominate Kentucky earlier in the year, but we'll see. We'll see about Ohio State. From Holden Daily 5, Illinois seed, floor, and ceiling. Illinois, one of those teams that I said from the beginning, I thought they were a little bit overrated, but they do have some serious skill. They just drilled Michigan, and maybe I saw some games where I thought they were overrated just because, they've been battling like the worst illness of any team in the country. Ceiling, I think they can make, they can be a 7 seed that beats a 2 seed, maybe. I wouldn't count on it. So ceiling, maybe at best a second weekend team, Sweet 16 team. I think their floor is losing first round, quite frankly, but I'm not real bought in as a 7 seed. If they were to play one of these 10 seeds, I'm not real bought in on the 10 seeds this year either. So I think Illinois just kind of screams around a 32 team to me this year. All right, moving down. What does it take for Ohio State to secure a tournament bid? From GAHS Football. Just talked about that. Probably got to go 2-1 in my opinion. From Sean Calderella 5. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Wisconsin, floor and ceiling. Their floor seed line, I would say, is probably a 4 seed. Probably going to be a 3 seed in my opinion, but their floor could be a 4 seed. I think they're going to win a game. This team's much better than last year's team. I think they're going to win a game. I'd say their floor is like around a 32. I'd say their ceiling, they can get all the way to, in Elite 8 or Final 4. This team's really good. I really like this Wisconsin team. Moving down from Caden B30. Who do you have coming out of the American Conference? I love this question because this is kind of one of the hotter takes that I have. Memphis is the obvious choice. They have the highest ceiling in the conference by far. They're the best team. They can beat anyone. However, they kind of play down to their competition a little bit. We've seen it lately. They did just pick up a big win yesterday at UAB, and UAB was actually the pick from the coaches to win the AAC. Out of the American, the obvious choice is Memphis. If you're not looking for Memphis, I don't think it's going to be UAB, although I wouldn't be completely surprised if it's UAB. If anyone, I would think North Texas has a good chance to really compete with Memphis. So if Memphis, loses in their opening game, say they draw Wichita State that already beat them this year, and they lose to Wichita State, Memphis is going to be in. Memphis is a lock, but I could see North Texas really making some noise. North Texas, a terrific program out of there, but I would still say Memphis in that scenario. From Bunch Carter, do you agree that UC San Diego should be at least a 10 seed? I don't think so. I think they're going to be an 11 or 12 seed. Good team. Just it's so hard to get into single digit seeds or even 10 seeds as a member of the Big West. Like you pretty much have to be, a Wichita State or a Florida Atlantic of the couple years ago that, you lose 2 or 3 games all season. I think they're going to end up an 11 seed. If they fall off a little bit, maybe a 12 seed, but I don't think they can really get as high as a 10 seed. From Easton Welchel, how legit is Tennessee? Talked about Tennessee a little bit earlier, so if you want to check that out, they're pretty good. They're a good basketball team, terrific on defense. I think they're the best defensive team in the country. Let's see what they rank at KenPom. I believe they might be, they're first at KenPom in defensive efficiency. St. John's actually second. Houston down to third. That's rare at KenPom. But this team is so good defensively. Their offense is they're 27th in offense. So that's going down a little bit. They're so reliant on Chaz Lanier. Zakai Ziegler can knock down shots. He's just not the the kind of guy who's like, man, he just dropped 30. Chaz Lanier is that guy. Little reliant on him, but this team is it's a really good basketball team. Alrighty, Kalen, again, can we see a two-bid Big West? I believe so. I think if UC San Diego runs the table to the Big West Finals, I think they would. Yeah, if they lose to UC Irvine or Cal State Northridge, I think there's a good chance. I think, as I mentioned, I would have UC San Diego ahead of Ohio State and Oklahoma. So I think, yeah, there is definitely a big chance, and I'm rooting for it. I would love to see a two-bid Big West. From Raymond Burrows, I think Maryland can be a dangerous as a 4 or 5 seed if they avoid Auburn's bracket. 100%. I 100% agree with you. This Maryland team can beat anyone in the country. Derek Queen is awesome. They're 28th in offensive efficiency, which I think their offense is better than their defense just to the eye test, but they're 12th in defensive efficiency. They're in that special KenPom region where they can win a national championship. I am a little worried about their depth, but they're starting 5. I'd put it up against, just about anyone in the country, not named Auburn or Duke or probably Bama, Tennessee, or Houston. All right, moving on to the next questions. From Luke Simmons, is Arkansas's tourney hopes doomed after their loss to South Carolina? It's not doomed. They still have a chance. It's only a quad 2 loss on the road. What killed them is how badly they lost. So, KenPom has projected numbers of how you should do against a specific team. It influences, or home court advantage influences this. When you lose that bad to the team who's last in South Carolina, it's going to hurt their, their metrics for sure, which it really did. It hurt their strength of record. It hurt their predictives like crazy, but we'll see about Arkansas. Again, about a 40-45% chance in my opinion. Moving on from Sheldon 222P, is Bama still a 1 seed? I believe so. I'll just pull this up real quick as we're talking about it. Again, if you happen to be in here and want to see this is why I believe Alabama is a 1 seed. We posted a poll on our Instagram, and like 70% of the people, we got a ton of votes on it. So appreciate that. Most of the people did believe that Alabama's resume based off this is better than Tennessee, even with the head-to-head. Like, once again, head-to-head is not the most important thing that there is. If it's like, if Alabama was exactly the same and it's like a coin flip, like their predictives are about exactly the same. Torvik leans Alabama, KenPom leads Tennessee, the Nets similar. Everything else is Alabama, though. So if they were, kind of coin flipping back and forth, I see the head-to-head argument, even if it's at home. But when it's at home, it just really doesn't mean that. I mean, think about it. Auburn lost to Duke. Duke lost to Clemson. Clemson lost to South Carolina. South Carolina lost to North Florida, who just got drilled by Austin Peay in the ASUN yesterday. You can go down the line like that for just about every team. That's why I 100% would lean Alabama in this scenario. I don't believe in head-to-head if it's on a home environment. All right, from Kalen, should we worry about Utah State with 2 losses in a row? I'm a Utah State fan. I will say I'm a little bit worried about, I'm not worried about them getting in. I think they're definitely going to get in. I wouldn't consider them an absolute lock right now, but I do think they're about 99% chance to get in right now. I'm a little worried about them playing one of these teams in March Madness as these 8 seeds. BYU's playing better than anyone. UCLA is, like I mentioned this on our post yesterday, UCLA is closer to a 6 seed than they are a 9 seed. They're just kind of the odd one out. Like the 6, 7s, and 8s are so close. Gonzaga's obviously got some potential, and Creighton. I would probably take any of those teams, unfortunately, against Utah State. But Utah State's zone can really hurt some people. But these teams in this scenario, I think their best matchup would be UCLA, because UCLA doesn't shoot it too well. I'm a little worried about their ceiling. Their floor is high. I think they're going to be a 9 or 10 seed. Yeah, I'm not real bought in on any of the Mountain West teams this year, unfortunately. New Mexico, I mean, they're both, like, they're good teams. They're good teams. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a little worried about a team really making a deep run this year for the Mountain West. But they'll be in. Hey, last year I also didn't think they were going to win a game, and they won a game. They had a great season. I think they're going to be good. Would you be surprised if Auburn lost in the first round? From Cully 24. I would indeed be very surprised if Auburn loses in the first round. I would maybe never watch college basketball games, because that would mean I know absolutely nothing. From Raymond, is it possible for the Mountain West to get 5 teams in if Colorado State wins the tournament? That's a great question. Colorado State's playing really good right now. If Colorado State were a bid thief, if there's one other bid thief, Boise State, if they play Boise State in the championship game, I guess, I think your top 3 of New Mexico, Utah State, and San Diego State are pretty solidified in. Boise State's a little up for grabs. Colorado State wins it. I think it would honestly push Boise State out unless they were playing Boise State in the finals. But I think there's going to end up being 4 at max, in my opinion. But would love to see a 5-bid Mountain West team. All right, from Jake Leslie, what's the worst seed Wisconsin could drop to? I think at worst they'll drop to a 4 seed, if anything. I think they're going to be a 3 seed. I think at worst they could drop to a 4 seed. From Nick Azzarello, what does Wake Forest need to do to make the tournament? Wake Forest, get them out of the tournament, please. I don't think this team deserves to be in. This team is just does not do it. They're 77th at KenPom. Their whole argument was that they beat teams that they should beat, and they don't even do that anymore. They now have 3 quad 3 losses. So what's their remaining schedule? Oh yeah, they play at Duke tonight. They're 20.5-point underdogs. I think they have to win that game to get in, or I don't think they're going to get in without an ACC championship. It's a stretch, but I think they have to win at Duke tonight, or they're pretty much going to be out. All right, from Kalen, Central Connecticut State as a 15 seed. Why aren't they higher? So as I say on a lot of podcasts, this is predicting all the favorites win the conference, which we just know is not going to happen. So, if random teams, out of the SoCon win instead of Chattanooga, if random teams out of the America East, like, a UMass Lowell wins the America East, Central Connecticut State would most likely jump them. So they could end up jumping up to, I think at best, maybe the last 14 seed. The Horizon League, they could jump the Horizon League team with Robert Morris. They're just in a tough boat where they're in such a bad conference that it's tough. From Dylan Whitehill, what are the seeds BYU can't be because they can't play on Sundays? I honestly don't remember. I would have to do a lot of research. I think they can be an 8 seed in just one of the regions, maybe, and they can't be a 9 seed if I'm remembering correctly. I would have to search it up. I don't remember the dates off the top of my head, so I apologize for that. But I'm not 100% sure on that one. That sucks for BYU if they're 8 seed quality, but they just get the rough draw. They would drop to a 10 seed. I believe there's one of the regions that they can play as an 8 seed though. All right, from Dylan, from Weddy.Dylan, where will Kansas be seated after yesterday's loss? They are as fringe 6-7 seed as there is in the country. Depends how much the committee is influenced by the non-con. They still have wins over Michigan State, over Duke, North Carolina still. They beat Iowa State. They've really fallen off. I agree. I don't think this team is too fantastic right now. I looked way too hard for that last 6 seed for Mississippi State or Kansas. I did end up going Mississippi State, but Kansas right in that conversation. They do have to play Houston tonight. Probably not going to win that one. If you lose that one, you're probably solidified as, that first 7 seed as of right now. Next question. With Nebraska's loss versus Minnesota, how did they look? From Bennett Kioki. We talked about this a little bit earlier. They're 9-10 in the first 2 quadrants, which is why I lean them to be ahead of some of the other bubble teams. Like I have them as my actual last team in right now. They're 9-10 in the first 2 quadrants compared to Arkansas 6-12, North Carolina 6-10. So that's why they've proven that they can beat good teams. The other teams really haven't. Arkansas sort of has, but still just a little bit too much of a difference there for Nebraska. Last team in / first team out. All right, the very last question that we have, unless there's any more coming from the chat, from Alex Abramson, 16. Is Indiana in the tournament? Yes, I have Indiana as my last bye team. playing really good basketball as of now. They got the big one with Ohio State, as we mentioned. Let me pull up their schedule right now. I know they play one more game other than that. Oh yeah, they're at Oregon. That was the big one. If they win at Oregon, it probably wouldn't be a lock, but they're going to be in. They'd be, a 99% chance to get in. Win and you're in at Oregon. Oregon's proven a little bit vulnerable. Ohio State, if they lose at Oregon, they'll be fringe last 4 bye / first 4. Then that game against Ohio State will have tremendous meaning, and that game gives Ohio State to have a it gives Indiana a 54% chance to win that game. So it's pretty close in that one. From Kelly 24 in the chat, are you excited for March Madness? Of course I am. I'm glad. I'm so glad it's March. This is going to be as entertaining as a March Madness as I think we're going to see in a while. Just love seeing conference tournaments already starting. As mentioned, I know a lot of people like to see the Cinderellas. I kind of like to see, the best teams win, but I'd love to see the best teams win their conference tournaments so they have the better chance of upsetting in the first round. But as we move closer to, Sweet 16, Elite 8, love to see these top seeds. And I do think we're very top heavy this year. From Raymond, can Oklahoma be that team that rides their non-conference to the tourney? I think that says. Yeah, definitely. 13-0 in the non-con, really struggling in conference play. But the best thing for Oklahoma, the conference record is not on the team sheets. It's just overall body of work. Now, of course, this is lowering their numbers with strength of record as poorly as they've played, but with such a good non-conference, like I say I don't believe in head-to-head, but in scenarios like this where they're as fringe of, they're just dealing with this gauntlet of the SEC. They beat Michigan on a neutral floor. They beat Louisville on a neutral floor. They beat Arizona on a neutral floor. It's like, these are all teams outside of your conference that are legit tournament teams, probably top 6 seeds, and you beat them all. I think that carries a lot of weight. I don't know. I have no idea what to do with this Oklahoma team. I think they're 4-12. If they go 5-13, go 1-1 down the stretch, and then win one game in the non-conference play, or in conference tournament play, I think that gets them in. However, it is tough. They're at home against Missouri and then at Texas, who has just fallen off like crazy. Probably got to win one of those. If you go 0-2, 4-14, I think that's just too bad to get you in. From Cully 24, have you gotten so many North Dakota State fans on Instagram and TikTok? On every post I see a comment about North Dakota State. You are the biggest North Dakota State fan I've ever seen, and I genuinely appreciate it. I love Jackson Money now because of you. Go North Dakota State. From Tony Brown, just now getting here, how does 1-1 the rest of the way get Arkansas back in the field? Seems like the bubble is fairly weak this year. Let me pull up Arkansas's stuff again. So that Arkansas game we mentioned, it just that really hurt their just because of the margin of defeat, it really hurt their predictive metrics a lot, which is why I dropped them out to ended up moving them to the first 4 out. However, from like Oklahoma to Arkansas is as close of a bubble as I have ever seen. So when you talk about Arkansas, their remaining schedule is at Vanderbilt, home against Mississippi State. You go 1-1 in that scenario, that puts you at 7-11 in the conference. I think you'd be on the right side looking in at that point. But then you probably have to win one game in SEC play. Arkansas, they've got 3 wins, Quad 1A, which is top half of Quad 1, 4-9 in Quad 1. It's just that 2-3 Quad 2 record for a combined 6-12 in the first 2 quadrants, kind of holding them back, along with those predictive metrics as an average of 45, 42 at Ken Palm, 49th at Torvik, 47th in the net, 44 at BPI. That is right about as bubbly as you get. You want to be, low 40s to be confidently on the right side of the bubble. But I think you got to win 2 more games for Arkansas to get in the tournament, depending on bid stealers. Alrighty, I think that's just about all the questions we have. I really appreciate if there's any more questions, go ahead and drop them. Jackson Money, do you really know of him? Yes, I do. Because of you, I will admit, looking up Jackson Money highlights last night. for Kelly 24. Tony Brown, how many bid stealers do you think we will get? It's tough to say. Last year, I didn't think we were going to get very many bid stealers at all, and we got a ton of them. We got, I think if you're looking for like a flyer bid stealer, we talked about North Texas. I think North Texas could steal one from Memphis. The Big Ten to me is kind of wide open. There's some teams that, you might not consider Nebraska bid stealer, but they can beat anyone. As we mentioned, 9 and 10 in the first two quadrants. Even Ohio State in that conversation. I mean, Michigan State's the best team. Could see a bid stealer there. Could definitely see a bid stealer out of the Mountain West. Colorado State, Boise State, if they end up falling on the wrong side of the bubble. And then, of course, definitely out of the A10 is one to watch. If VCU doesn't win it, could be George Mason, could be Dayton, who was hot earlier in the year. I think VCU is far and away the best team. Even Duquesne's been playing pretty good as of late. And then the other one to kind of take note of is in the Missouri Valley with Drake. So I do think Drake is going to end up getting in, even if they don't win the Missouri Valley. But there's going to be a couple bid stealers in my opinion. From Sam Wishna, what team do you think will win it all? I'm on Auburn all the way. The way I phrase it with Auburn, I think they're about as bulletproof as a team can get. This team, they're 27-2 in the best conference that statistically has ever been. They're 27-2 and probably going to win that conference by multiple games. If Auburn matches up with Duke in the national championship, I can see it going either way. Duke is really good. They can beat anyone in the country. They beat Auburn earlier. However, I do think with Duke's lingering injuries with Tyrese Proctor and Malik Brown, that hurts. That really does hurt. I think Auburn's not going to lose. I don't see Auburn not reaching the Final Four, quite frankly. I see a scenario where Duke could maybe not reach the Final Four because of these injuries and because they have shown that, in tight games, sometimes they don't end up pulling those games out. But so I'm on Auburn just by sheer gut feeling. Honestly, I think they're really good. From Tony Brown, favorite to come out of the Sun Belt is South Alabama, the heavy favorite. So there are 4 teams tied for first in the Sun Belt regular season. You got South Alabama, you've got Arkansas State, who is the 4 seed. So those 2 teams may match up in the semifinals. Then you have James Madison and Troy. I think the winner of the South Alabama Arkansas State game will win the Sun Belt Conference. I lean Arkansas State. I might just be a little bit, biased by them early in the season. That game at Memphis, I've kind of just thought that Arkansas State has been the best team in the Sun Belt, but South Alabama is a really good team too. I don't think I see Troy winning it, quite frankly. James Madison, maybe I think the winner of the South Alabama Arkansas State game will win it. I will take Arkansas State just for the fun of it. From Cully 24, what's your Final Four teams? As mentioned, I believe it's going to be a chalky bracket. I will take Auburn and I will probably take Duke 100%. I'll take Florida as a 2 seed. And then if you're looking for, a flyer, I don't know. I'd have to see the regions, but I don't know. Maybe a Maryland, maybe a St. Mary's. Even St. Mary's in that 5 spot, always seems to lose early, but this team's a little bit different. So definitely Auburn and Duke. I think you just kind of have to take for smart sakes. But Auburn for sure. Duke probably. I think if Florida matches up with Houston, I would take Florida in that game. And I'm a Houston lover. I believe in Kelvin Sampson more than anyone. But I think I would take. I'd take Florida in that scenario. I just have a feeling those 2 teams are going to match up in the Elite 8. I don't know why. So those 3, and then probably take a flyer somewhere else. Favorite upset team? I talked about them a little bit earlier. I'm in on High Point. High Point has a 13 seed, but as we said, this is if the favorites all end up winning the conferences from big name baseball and basketball scouting, by the way, should give you credit. I think High Point's going to end up a 12 seed, and I think they're going to be the team that really makes some noise. Kind of remind me of Furman a couple years ago, but High Point, if they're a 12 matching up, the thing about if they're a 12 seed, the 5 seeds are so good: Clemson, Missouri, Maryland, St. Mary's. So someone might need to fall into place there. Maybe an Oregon, maybe a Marquette, even maybe Louisville can climb up there. But these 5 seeds are really good. Even some teams that might fall, Michigan may fall. Give me High Point. High Point can really score the ball. They're my favorite upset team. From Reen or Renee Rocha. Sorry, I'm horrible with names. I'd rather Tech fall to the 4 line if it means avoiding Auburn. Yes, I would definitely, I would definitely agree in that scenario. You do not want to go against Auburn. From Cully 24. My final 4: North Dakota State, McNeese, Baylor, Yale. Interesting. I love it. But I could see Coastal Carolina winning the Sun Belt Conference and going to the Final Four. All right, Coastal Carolina. And I've watched a lot of Baylor basketball. This team, they are not a Final Four team. No, they are not. Baylor is not very good this year. That's from Reen or Renee. Not sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, they are definitely not a Final Four team, especially with losing Josh Ojonwina. Yeah, that team's. I think that team's about dead in the waters. I don't think they're going to even win a game in March Madness. All righty, I think that might be the end of the questions. I'll stick around here for just one more second if anyone has any other questions. Really appreciate the chat, being this live, everyone joining in here. I know it's a Monday and kind of a tough day to do a live show, but I really appreciate everyone stepping in here, asking good questions about college hoops. From Cully, March Madness turns teams into magical beasts. Yes, it does. It indeed does. All righty. If there's no more questions, I'm going to get out of here at just about under an hour. I'll stick around for a second. Again, thank you, Renee. Solid content. Thanks. Or Reen. I'm sorry. I need to learn how to pronounce names. Solid content. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Appreciate everyone for being here again. We're going to release another video tomorrow on the KenPom stats to know when filling out your bracket. So you know what falls into that national championship, the KenPom stats, top, I think it's 37 and 57 or 57 and 44. So we'll talk about all of those when filling out your March Madness bracket for who to pick as your eventual champion. So it'll be just a quick video tomorrow. So tune into that. Appreciate everyone for being here. Everyone have a great rest of their week. See you later.